Hey guys, I just want to warn you guys that the audio on my side has not been working pretty well. It's my very first one, so you guys better take it easy with it. Luckily for my guest, she managed to have really good audio on her part, but the thing is not mine so much. So bear with me guys. I am so sorry. I normally do the best quality as I can with this, but nope, not this time. I guess just, that's how it is. So next time I'll do a little better next time. So not further ado, on with the show. Hello everyone, welcome to my first ever episode of Cue the Spotlight, an animation podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Pinzone, and I want to welcome you all to the first ever episode of my own podcast I created. So I wanted to make this podcast to interview and talk to a lot of people working in the animation industry. Sometimes with other industries like the film industry or video game industry, but I'm mostly going to discuss with animation for now. But here's the thing, you guys. We have our very first special guest right here on this podcast, and I'm very excited to talk about in a little bit. So, without further ado, here we go. All right, then. I'm here with my Magdiela. How you pronounce it? Is it Magdiela?
Magdiela. So it's
Magdiela with the
yeah,
Ella.
yeah, Ella. It's good, but Magdiela, Ella, A. That's the joke I get all the time.
I can't totally pronounce her name sometimes. I was like, it's Magdiela or Magdiela. And I
Yeah,
said, Magdiela, I'm guessing. It's,
Magdiela.
all
Yeah.
right. So here we are with Magdiela, and she's here for us for our first ever podcast about animation. Right? That's what I call it, the big
Woohoo!
podcast
I'm
called
honored.
Light. So I'm tuning the spotlight to Magdiela today, and we're going to talk about some questions I have for her. So the first question I have for her is her experience, where she's from and what's her experience as a childhood growing up to become who you are today. So my
Yeah.
question is, what's your inspiration? Who impacted you to be who you are today?
Yeah, that's a good question. And um and first of all, thank you. Congratulations on your I'm excited to be your first guest and to have a really awesome conversation, good time with you. To talk about growing up and kind of like how to end up where I am. I'm originally from Mexico. Soy de Campeche, so south of Mexico. I grew up in Guadalajara in Mexico City. And then my parents got a job in the US. My dad got a job in Highland Park, California as a youth pastor when I was in like fourth grade. So I moved, I went from a private Christian school to a public LAUSD. So it was a very big cultural shock for me. And one thing I relied on for me personally was cartoons, was animation. I grew up watching a lot of like Doug and Hey Arnold from the Nickelodeon and Rugrats, but I also grew up with a lot of PBS, with Hey Arthur and just watching a lot of like Captain Planet. So a lot of those shows when I came to the States after that big move, I kind of just rewatched them in English. I had watched them in Spanish. And then, so to me, it was like a double thing. One, it was like a language, cultural thing. And two, I felt like, oh my God, I'm in this culture now. Like I'm part of I feel like, Arthur really like showed me how to be like, I don't have siblings, but I always love the relationship between like Arthur and DW and how they're always like arguing and stuff. So I kind of felt like, oh, I'm in this American culture, and I learned that from cartoons. So that's where that starts, my love for animation. um
Yeah, it's pretty much the same as my childhood, except I was born here. And my
yeah,
mom's from Morelos, Mexico, so that's where
nice.
she's from. And she arrived in America in the 90s, and I ended up being born here. So here I
Nice.
am today.
Yep. I grew up, in Highland Park in the late 90s, early 2000s. We moved after the big 2008 house crash where like we were just, we couldn't afford to live in that area. And now Highland Park is like super hip and cool, but back when I grew up there, it was like cholos, you know, the avenues were in charge there. There was a lot of, so I knew my future was not necessarily this, like, I'm going to go to a, you know, a university and how, like, that wasn't necessarily like part of the equation, to be honest. I think my parents were very frank of like, we can't afford to send you to a 4-year university, but we want to support you. I'm the only child. So like, how can we support you? So that's what the decision that got me to go to Pasadena City College, you know, kind of knowing that I could stay local, my parents can support me, and like I just knew that was a little more realistic to what I wanted to do. So I didn't know what I wanted to do, to be honest, Jonathan, but I feel like, you know, you being from LA, also like the entertainment industry, there's something there. Like you're like, I want to do something in entertainment. And growing up in, you know, in like the church culture, there was a lot of events. I was very involved in like the youth organizations of things. So I always felt like now I know what it's called. It's producing. But back then when I was growing up and I was putting these things together, I just thought, oh, I'm really good at planning, you know? So that's what I wanted to do. I'm like, I want to work in the entertainment industry and plan things. Like directors need their stuff planned and producers need, you know, I just never. And once I started Pasadena City College, I took television production, and it was one of those moments where I'm like, oh, producers, they're the people behind the camera, and that's what I want to do. So I feel very lucky that early on I wanted to do that. And I was like, I want to help directors, I want to help writers, I want to help artists, I want to help them translate what they're thinking into action, right? And then I learned a second thing that I was good at early on, which I feel has a lot to do with my career, is my brain's different. I think differently, and a lot of artists do too. I think that a lot of people in the artist world just come from different, you know, minds, and a lot of, you know, there's a lot of neurodivergence in the world, in that world, and I somehow just learned to be able to visualize what they were saying, and then like, oh, I think I know how to do it, and then put that into some type of spreadsheet, which is like super boring and nobody wants to do. But I really found like, oh, okay, like I just need to tell you when things are due, why you need to deliver. Anyway, all that to say that early on, I knew I wanted to produce, but I didn't know what that meant. So my career at Pasadena City College was to take as many television production classes as possible, anything that's writing, anything that was editing. You know, at that time, you're kind of doing everything, right? You're kind of like a filmmaker. You're editing, you're doing podcasts, you're doing, you know, you're doing a little bit of everything because you're just trying to touch a little bit of everything. And at that time, also, I learned in my like college time that I am DACA. And I was like, what? Like this was something that I had never really like, at the time, it wasn't like this thing you talk about. And for that, to know who DACA is, but that's, you know, when you're a child of undocumented, when you came here undocumented as a child, and for whatever reason, even if you came here legally, your status kind of went away, or was you overstay your visa, or etc. And then you kind of fall into that category. So when that happened to me, I was really scared, and my options were even less limited. So I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to like be in this industry. And I say that because it was really sucky. Like, you know, when people say like you hit rock bottom, at the time it felt that way, because I saw my friends graduate from community college and go on to like, you know, Northridge, and go to the Berkeleys and do these things, and go to, you know, USC and go to film school. And here I am being like, I don't know, I can't, you know, that's just not an option for me anymore. So I did what I could and tried to learn how to just do whatever I could. And I'm good at planning, right? Kind of back to planning. So for years, my husband and I were event planners, like wedding planners. And that was such a crazy time. I always think about like what a crazy period. Like I always say, in my past life, I was a wedding planner. And the reason I bring this up and why it's so important for me is because at that time, I had no idea. To me, I'm like, I can't be in the industry. My dreams are done. I have to just find what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be a wedding planner and help events. And we're dealing with photo booths and candy bars and like a whole new world, you know? And during that time, I got married, I became a citizen, you know, I kind of was reminded like, oh yeah, like I could go back to that world, but like I've been in this world for so long, I don't want to start over. Like, what is, you can't, it's just a lot. So I put all of my effort and just be the best event planner I possibly could. And you know what? It was a lot of fun. I feel like at the end, some of our clients were Disney, the Disney company, CBS Studios. So somehow I somehow was still in the industry, even though I wasn't, and like I was told, like, yeah, you can't do this. I don't know how, but I still was working with some of these to put events for like the cruise or put events for like, you know, a really fancy wedding at the museum. And so that the person happened to be a celebrity and like, it's just weird. You just kind of, I found myself in that world and kind of feeling like, oh yeah, I forgot. Like I am good at this. I am good with people. I'm good at planning and working and I am creative. And during that time, I started to do like start over kind of thing. You start applying everywhere and you just start applying everywhere. My first job, my first breakthrough was a closed captioning and subtitles company because I said, hey, I speak Spanish. That's one thing I can do. I need anything. So I just applied to anything that was like entry level. I was applying for like office jobs that were like in post-production houses. I was like anything that was in that world, even if it's not that. And I feel like once I got into that and I was in that world, I kind of got the itch of like I want to stay in this world. And my first job, my first like big break was Inc., which is no longer in existence, a company that did subtitles and closed captioning. I think now they're like,
Because I think you cut off for a second. Which company was you,
oh
as you
yes,
mentioned?
oh yeah. So the my first post job was at Captions Inc., which was in Burbank, and I don't, it is no longer in existence, I believe, and I bought out by like one of the big deluxe Pixar or something, I don't know. And I think that when I was interviewing, the question of I didn't know what to put on my resume because I didn't really have a lot of stuff. So I did put like event planner and I kind of try to put some transferable skills. Like in my mind, I thought like this is the same, but instead of coordinating these flowers deliverables and you know I'm coordinating like files deliverables and like what time they have to be here and who has to get them. So the concept was kind of there. So when I interviewed for a bunch of places while I was working at closed caption and subtitles, I was able to work at small little post-production studios here and there, which then led me to my big break, which was Fox Studios. I was really excited. I was like, what? I get to work at post-production at the studios. And that was for what I feel was, I still think of Fox Studios, and specifically the sports building at the lot was really special because that was,
That's in Century City and Pico
yes,
Avenue, right?
yes,
Yeah.
it's Century City. It's a beautiful building, and that was FX was just starting, and so they were growing their post-production department, and they were looking for people who had experience in closed captioning. And I had a colleague who knew someone who knows someone, and there's always something when I'm like, oh my God, please keep me in mind. Here's my resume. And yeah, like I got the job, and at the time I was living in Pasadena and I was driving from Pasadena to Century City. So it was like 2 hours each way. It was like really hard. And I was trying to do the metro and I was trying to do like carpooling with different people. It was just crazy for like 2.5 years. But to me, that was my big break. You know, I was working at Fox lot. I was working at the sports building. There was always events happening. I just felt like this is my big break. And honestly, I would have been happy with that. I feel like I made it. Coming from the life I came in, the background I had, like I didn't never thought I was going to be in that space. So just for me to be there, I was like, I'm done. I'm great. And I learned a
That
lot.
that alone is just worth it. You know
So
what
yeah, thanks. And I remember thinking like, I can't believe I was just like planning events, and now I'm here working at the Fox Law. So that and I bring that up just to say that I know there's a lot of times where we're growing in our careers or in our goals, and all this stuff that just life happens because it happens. I think the biggest advice I got from someone who was much older, who said the best thing I could tell myself younger is like, don't look at the time of other people. That gives you so much pressure. Like, oh my God, my friend's making a movie, this person's making a movie. And then you just feel like you're so behind, right? And I started just focusing on like, okay, what can I do that I can do that still is entertainment? I can do event planning, like, so I started to slowly just stay in that world. So when I was at FX for and Fox, one of the shows that I worked on was Archer. I don't know if you're familiar with Archer, which is a
I
2D
love Archer.
series. Yeah, it's a really fun series, a 2D series. And I had that moment of like, wait, this is a cartoon. They're like, yeah. They're like, we're working on a cartoon. And they're like, yeah, we can do that, but we're not artists. We don't draw. Like, we don't. And they're like, yeah, we're posts. Like, posts happens no matter what. And I was like, what? So it opened up a whole new world. And I was like, I want to work in animation. I'm gonna go in through posts. I don't know what to do. And I literally just took the rest of I applied so many for years into like every studio for every position for so long. And finally I got a call from Dreamworks, and they were looking for a a post PA, and they said, you are overqualified for a PA, but we're not really looking for a coordinator, but we still like to meet you just in case. Like, they were very clear that like maybe if this wasn't the job, but just to at least get to know me, and then maybe the next one. So I was like, okay, that's a good way to go. So I kind of learned, and it's another advice I always give is when you're interviewing, think of it as you're interviewing. I was like, you're always interviewing for your next job. Like, you might not get this one, but you just never know. You're like, okay, maybe Jonathan didn't work for this thing, but I'll keep him in mind. And then the next one, you're like, oh, he's perfect for that. They're perfect for that. Like, she's perfect for that. And then boom, you don't even interview anymore. You just get like the call, like, hey, there's a project and we think you're perfect for it. So I think that's why, even if you don't get the job, you just never know. Because I got jobs like this one where I didn't get the first round, but then I got the call back like, hey, there's this other show that's looking for a coordinator. We can't tell you what it is. It hasn't been announced. It's a top secret. Can you come interview for it? Blah, blah. I go interview for it. And the reason I got the job, I found out later, is because in my resume, I had put event planning, and the person who was hiring was like, oh, if this person can handle like an angry bride, she can handle anything. Like, she can handle a director, a producer. Like, if she can handle a live wedding like that. So that really stood to me. And he told me that. He was like, I took a chance, even though it was just different. And I saw that. And I say that because I know a lot of times I hear young people just being like graduating from college and being like, oh, I worked at Starbucks and like, I don't know, I don't have experience. I'm like, that is a lot. Like, you're dealing with people. People can be savage and wild. Like, they're wild out there, especially when you're in food service, when you're dealing with customer service. Like, those are really things that they aren't transferable, and they have so much value in production in this industry. So that like stood to me when he said that to me, because I was like, I almost didn't put it because I was embarrassed, and instead, like, it helped me, like, just kind of put me to that next level. So when I was I worked at DreamWorks for a few years. That was sort of like my animation big break. I worked on the show that was so secretive was Troll Hunters, which was Guillermo del Toro's first animated series. It was Netflix's first series. It was a lot of fun. We got to work with so many talented people. I got to do post for the I came in for first, second, and then I left on the third season. And there was like a whole spin-off worlds that came out of that. It was really fun. At the same time, I worked on Dragons, Race to the Edge, which was the spin-off show off of How to Train Your Dragon. And then Rocky and Bullwinkle, which was a 2D series for Amazon Prime, which was really fun and campy, and like it's one of my favorite 2D series to watch for real. It's like
It's a
so
good show.
underrated.
I did watch the new Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh, I'm
No,
so glad you did.
yeah, of course. I mean, I love Rocky and Bullwinkle,
Oh,
and
nice.
also Terrence Strong voicing Rocky. It's just like, hey, she's great for it. I just watch it because of Terrence Strong. And
Yes,
also,
Tara was amazing. And Brad, I believe, is the voice of Bullwinkle, is such a funny guy. Like so much of the character was just them being themselves and together, just being silly. It was such a fun, like totally 2D traditional vibe with comedy. Like Scott Fellows, the showrunner, was just like he loved all of that 2D animation and
like
like
popular
Looney
stuff.
Tunes.
Yeah,
Cool.
I did love his stuff, like Johnny Test. I used to watch Johnny Test as a kid.
Yes.
I thought it was the funniest thing ever. And then growing up, well, that's a little different. I think it's for kids. But kids see
Yeah.
this kind of humor. And I used to love this kind of humor. But
Nice.
he can be a really good writer at times, so I'll give him that.
Nice. Absolutely. He was really fun to work with. So that's great. So yeah, I was there for a while, working on different series. And then I kind of had that moment where I was like, okay, I don't want to get stuck in post-production, right? And I was like, I want to learn production. I want to learn movies. I'd only been working in series. So I was like, I want to learn feature. And at the time, a group of people from Dreamworks had left the studio to go work on a animated musical. And it was a musical for STX. It was their first animated music, animated anything. They had been doing great with like, I can't remember what series or something. But anyway, so I came in, I wanted to learn. And my production manager on that show was my production manager on who was on the Troll Hunters and Three Below and that whole series. So he kind of like knew that I wanted to do feature and was like, hey, I'm looking for a supervisor. I was looking to move up, and I was like, from a coordinator, and he's like, would you be interested in coming to kind of meet the team and see if you like the show? And I came in, I met the director was Kelly Asbury, who I was a fan of, Spirit, Shrek 2. Oh my gosh, I was like, I was really excited, and I was like, yes, I love to work with them. Then I got to work with Chris Leonard, the composer, who is also like great. Like he's done like it's so different than what he's done, because he's done like Sausage Party, like Gallivant, so it was really fun to work with that team, and I learned a lot. And it was the first time that I learned how to communicate animation to live action, like how to tell people what animation kind of was like. Hey, layout, it's like putting tape on the floor in live action for humans. I don't know. I just was kind of learning these terms.
It's pretty accurate what you say about layout.
Yeah.
About the scene.
Cool. So I kind of started learning those things and how to translate that. So that helped me a lot, because at the time, one of and this is again why I say you're always interviewing for your next job, because you just never know who's watching, who's looking, who's seeing the work you're doing. Because the next thing was I got reached out by Disney. They didn't say for what project, and I wasn't necessarily sure, like, how do they get my information, what's the deal? And it turns out my the writer on Troll Hunters, AC Bradley, got the opportunity to be a showrunner on What If. And Ashley and I had worked together on Troll Hunters, and we worked together, and our colleague Sam as well. So through them, they reached out. I didn't know what the interview was for. They just said it was for Disney. They're very secretive. So I had a feeling, I was like, they're too secretive, so it must be Marvel. And I got to the interview. I did the whole thing. It was a few rounds. It was like 2 rounds. And I got that job. And I feel like that everything kind of has prepared me, because the biggest job there was to really help the live action VFX world understand the animation world, because they are different. And we had yeah, so that was like a challenge, and the show is like here's a laptop, go make a show. And it was just me and my producer, and we're like, okay. So it was crazy. It was
Go
crazy.
at it. It's just quite an amazing Marvel cartoon.
Oh my God, thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Honestly, I have to give a lot of credit to the writers' room, which, I think AC did such a great job. She just really was so open and just listening to others. At the time, I was just a management, production manager. There's no need for her to listen to me as a writer, but I was like, oh, what about this? And this is so fun. And she's such a fan and such a nerd about that. So it was just so fun to be in that. So I'm glad you loved it.
Yeah. And also, I think I'm connected with Stephen Frank, who was the animation supervisor on the show.
Yes.
We met him back earlier this year. Like he was doing a panel about Marvel Studios' What If, about the storyboards to animation.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that's how we got connected. He followed me on Instagram and everything. So here we are.
Cool. Yeah, you definitely need to chat and with Ryan Meinerding a lot about the art and that, because that was my favorite part, to be honest, at Marvel, was to work with Ryan and really learn his process. Had been there forever, right? But like, just to see how talented he's are, his whole team. We had some designers that were abroad. We were kind of working remote before this whole remote thing, because a lot of the talent, we use the voices were already in London, or they were, and we were just recording them for a few, for a few lines here and there. So we weren't going to do a whole production. And unlike live action, you just need a mic, and you just, your PJs, and you can just do it. So
That's
it was really, really fun to do that. I think one of my favorite moments was, I remember we had to do a record with Stanley Tucci, and he was in London. He only had a few lines, so we just kind of did a small improv thing, and we did a record in his house. We kind of did the London team did like a little setup. It was so fun, really quick. And it was really early in the morning for us because it was London time. And I still have this amazing image of my laptop, because the director didn't even, I don't know what happened, but we ended up on our side. He ended up being super late, and he was only able to hop on my laptop. So it's like Stanley Tucci on my laptop. And I'm like, what are we? Like, this is so cool. Like, the director's talking to him, and I'm just like standing behind my laptop, just looking at it, just being like, because I love him so much. And I was like, this is so cool. So there's a lot of fun moments like that. And there was a lot of hard work. And that ended. I was very blessed and lucky to be on that series. And that is what led me to wanting to kind of continue working into, there was a little bit of 2D in there. And when I heard about the Casa Grandes coming up on Nickelodeon as a Mexican American and, Chicana, I was like, what? I was so excited. So I was just telling anyone who would hear me, like, hey, if there's anything going on at Casa Grandes, like, please keep me in mind. And the show started. I thought they forgot about me. And, I was working on What If, and then I got a call of like, hey, actually, we'd love to interview you. We'd be interested. And I was like, I was really excited to be at Marvel. And I think that, I probably would have stayed. I just think that I had the opportunity to work. For me, growing up as a Nick kid, I felt like,
you.
yeah, just,
All channels, I would say.
yeah, I would say all channels, but I feel like I love Doug. I loved Hey Arnold so much. And the Rugrats, I feel like the Rugrats for me was just so fun, like the angles, like I think I just love that show a lot. So to work at Nickelodeon was like a dream I didn't even know I had until I started working in the animation. I was like, oh my God, I can work in, like, one day I can work in Nickelodeon, like that was a dream. I think it became that. So when I had this opportunity, I was like, oh my God, in an interview, I got the job, and it was just the greatest. Like, I loved the Casa Grandes. I loved the team, Puga, Gonzalez, like
Yeah, we
I
had a good
love
cast as well. It's an amazing cast. We got
the
amazing.
cast is so fun. They're so funny, and I love that we had such a diverse crew. I feel like the fact that I would say that 90% of our crew was Latino. from our showrunner all the way to like our PAs, which was super cool. And I think that was what was so special. I really don't know if we're gonna have that again in a while, or at least me personally.
Yeah,
And
it can happen any second now.
I know, I hope so. I feel like that's, this is why Primos is special, because I feel like Primos is also, Disney, a series that's coming up, by the way, is,
I didn't everything about Primos
I'm
because
excited.
it,
They
it, it
also
just
have that.
yeah, in case you didn't know, I'm actually friends with Natasha. So yeah, she told me she's been working on it for several years on it. So she's currently getting ready to pitch on the final episode of the first season. So pretty excited for it.
Oh, that's exciting. I know. And so that, it's exciting because you don't get a lot of those shows. I feel like, yes, there's always like, oh, we're not represented. Well, there's just so many. We would need infinite of shows to really represent all of us. So I think that Mexican American shows is what right now is what we're able to produce in the States. And Casa Grandes was that for us. And, it was really great to just work with some amazing people, like, that I was like Sonia Manzano and just like Isabella, like, is this great. And also one thing that I'm really proud of for Casa Grandes that we kind of forget is we had our actor Jared Kozak, I believe his name is. He actually our Down syndrome character, actually the actor is a Down syndrome actor who would come in and do his work and come and do his records. And like that was something that again was just so special that I don't know when I'll have again, but that
Yeah,
show
well,
was,
but I do want more.
yeah, like it was just unique and special, and I loved it, and I learned so much from that. And I was a production manager there for for the 2 seasons, and then the third season, we found out the show was not going to get renewed, so we were all very, very sad. And once again I was like, oh my god, what I'm gonna do? I left Marvel, the show got canceled, I have no job, what do I do? And I took a break and I went to Mexico with family and friends, and during that time I met some amazing people in Mexico that I feel like really helped where I am now, because during that time I got to meet the Calavera Hermanos Calavera, which are a studio in Mexico City. They're working on Rey Misterio, the animated series for Cartoon Network and HBO, and HBO Latin America. So I got to work a little bit on that show, do some consulting, help with some production. Like that was, I was like, whoa, what? Like I'm helping other people now about this. Like, you kind of, it was really amazing. And during that time, kind of what they say, they people just find you. Or I got the email about Pixar looking for an associate producer, and I wasn't sure if it was for a current show or for the future. They said just go to the website and apply, we'd love to talk to you, here's information. I did everything within 24 hours. I was like, oh my god, what? I interviewed, and then I was in Mexico. So I just was like, okay, they just don't want to hear. They never, I left, they never contacted me again. I guess, what is what it is. I came back, I was a little bummed out because I didn't hear from anybody. But then I got an email just being like, hey, we'd love for you to like meet the team. And I was like, oh my god. And then I got to like another round, and then I got a third call, and it was just to tell me congratulations. And I was like, what, are you kidding me? And I still didn't really know too much about the project. It wasn't until the second interview when I met the producers and the that I was like, oh my gosh, what? This is, I'm sorry, for what? And this is also my like another like sidebar, like that's my husband's like favorite Pixar movie is probably Inside Out. So
And puppy
um
figures up there to know that.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh
and
yes, I do. I see them. They're awesome. And it's probably like, it's definitely top three. Like it's like top three. So I definitely was really excited. And I the it's really important, the shows that I work on. For me, I feel very blessed that I've been able to choose what projects I can be part of. And Inside Out is super special because of the message of mental health and awareness, and just the idea of learning to deal with our emotions. I feel like we just grew up, at least myself, culturally, with like not necessarily being okay with not being okay. It's just like, oh, you're not, oh, I'm depressed, I'm sad, oh, you're just bored, go do work or something. You're like, no, like, we have to go through these emotions. So it was important for me to have that. And that's kind of a long, long, long way to say how I got here. And now I'm currently working on Inside Out 2 as an associate producer. I will be out in the summer. We're so excited. The teaser is out, and we couldn't be more excited for the reaction that we got.
I know, same here, because you have no idea how impactful Inside Out was to me.
Oh, I love to hear that. That's great.
Well, it's simple. It's just simply like another Pixar movie. Like, hey, another Pixar movie. Oh, it's P Doctor? Okay, I gotta go see it. Because I'm such a big fan of P Doctor's work from Up to Monsters Inc. And even in Toy Story when he co-wrote it for, back in the 90s. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was lucky enough to finally meet P Doctor earlier this year.
absolutely. Yeah. And I
I
mean,
think I think I showed you the image before, with me and P Doctor.
yes, yeah, I know that you are a fan. I know you guys have taken photos and have met. I haven't had a chance to work with him too much. And the times that we've had, there, I'm always very in awe of the type of notes. You're just like, wow, this is why he's
Yeah.
Pete.
I know he's taking this very seriously since he is in charge of Pixar for the creative side of things. And I get super hyped hearing that he's in charge of Pixar. And I do think Pixar, in my opinion, is getting better nowadays compared to the last decade. Which I know they have some few good ones, but it's mostly about sequels, rehashing a lot of stuff with the characters, which I don't mind because I do like those characters, but I feel like I want more new and original stuff out of it. So
Yeah.
I'm glad we
Well,
managed to.
we're looking forward to that, and we're excited. I feel like that is the way that we're headed to.
And I'm glad it's doing well. So I guess my other questions I have, well, I better keep this. Yeah, I think I have like 15 minutes left of it. So I'll keep it brief on the last couple of questions. So the
Yeah,
next
of
question
course.
I ask you is how are you impacting a lot of people in the Latin community, especially around your heritage or anybody else as well?
Yeah, I feel like the impact that I'm doing right now through it's my nonprofit, which is Latinx Animation, which is how we know each other. And I feel like there are two ways. One is a very in a high level way, however I can impact on a high level, which is through my job, or through my personal filmmaking, or through this organization. We're working to just bring more diversity and inclusion in animation for Latinos and Latinas that are working in the field. But also personally, I try to put a little bit of Latinidad in every project that I can. I try to impact and influence, even if it's like a Spanglish here, or a little bit of a background character here, or a second character here and there. I think I've always, anytime I have a little bit of control, I do try to use it for that influence, and try to be like, oh, if the story takes place in California, the likelihood of having a Latino person are very high. So, try to use logic as well to just really control everything. I can add as much influences as I can in anything that I can control. I can't control everything, but whenever I can, I try.
Hey, we all try. We all do it anyway. So we just wait for the results, and everyone else will be like, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing this? Why are you doing that?" This isn't how we do
Yeah,
it. Okay, we fix that, and then we improve things, and things will get better nowadays. So yeah, I
absolutely.
got talk too fast, and I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries. I do that too. I'm like, talking a lot. I'm like, wait, sorry, I have to slow down a little.
But we're all taking it easy here. So I think the last question is about your future. Like, what are you
Okay.
going to be in the next few years? What's your ideas, or do you have anything?
Oh my goodness, that's a great question. Well, I think that I like to think that my day job as a producer at a major studio is something that I like to continue to do. I love to work on big movies, but personally, I am a filmmaker. I have 3 films currently. One that is out on YouTube, Pacemaker, check it out.
Love it.
Yeah, thank you. That it's a transpositive musical with Chris Leonards and Brian Vincent Rhodes and Darlene Kamau and Andy Stevenson. It was really, really great project. And that is a little bit of the kind of stuff that I'm doing outside of work. And I feel like that's shows more like the type of stories that I like to push and the type of directors that I like to support. I also working on a stop motion short, not a musical. There's actually no words, which is actually something I do like. There's a little bit at the end. But that one was also really fun. It's stop motion, Canción del Lago. We're doing our festival rounds right now, and it was done in Mexico with the Mexican studio, Mexican directors and creators that I met during my Mexico trip, and that it was a comic book, and I was like, this is so great, I want to see it in stop motion. So that was a whole lesson there too. And got to work with Carlos Salas, who is the graphic writer and director, who just, my God, and Ari's partner, who's just amazing at art. So I got to just meet a bunch of people, and I hope that that continues, that I can continue to create more of my personal projects. My baby that I adore, and I can't wait to come back and talk to you about it when it's out in the world, Jonathan, really is Mosca, which is a live action animation hybrid project that I am working on. We have
I mean, I got the stickers and some of the merch from the short.
Oh, nice. Yes, I'm good. Okay,
I
good.
got at Latina in LA Latino Film Festival.
Oh, nice. That's right. So that is a project that, it started before pandemic, was halted due because of pandemic, because it's live action. We were able to record the live action, shoot it, edit, done. And now we're working with animation. We are partnering with Demente Animation in Guadalajara. 2D, hand-drawn animation. Each frame is so beautiful. We get to look at dailies. It's digital, of course, but it is beautiful to be able to combine that. And I think that's more of the future that I hope to have, is a project that also I get to work with my partner, my husband, who is a director, producer. We met working together as well. So this is kind of great, because not only do we get to work together, but it's a project that's really close to us, that has come together with a lot of our friends. The writer is Michael was someone who, Michael Beal, who is someone from Linux Animation, but he's like, I can't even think of his credits because he has so many at this point, but he's worked for like a lot of animation, like animation shows. And we kind of just came together and created this cute little story about a little mosquita who is just bothering this woman trying to make a meal, and just nuts and adventure that happens out of that. And then what does that mean, and like why, and just little snippet of life that we get to experience get experience with, because we're doing this hybrid. We're paying homage and love to, like, movies that I deeply love, like Space Jam, and I know I love it, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I feel like those are movies that influenced me a lot growing up. And this short, Mosca, is a little bit of the type of movies that I like to do. It's going to be my first, like, produced by, like, I worked really hard to get everybody involved. And so I feel like this is going to show whether people believe in that type of storytelling that I want to, and they want to invest in me and the stories that I want to tell as a producer. And why not be the next Phil Lord and Chris Miller of movies? Like, I love them, and I will love to just kind of have dynamic. They get to work in live action, they get to work in animation, they get to do what do they want. I just love and admire them so much, and their advice has always been like, stick to what you want to do. So I think the future for me is believing in more of those stories that I want to create, and literally producing those and seeing if why not? Why can't I be the Latina be doctor. I don't know, like I just try to think of like I want to learn story a lot more and writing and everything. And I think that's more my focus is how can I now put in my production brain and merge it with this creative itch of like because we're Latinos naturally are they're like chisme is in our blood. We have so many stories to tell. We just grew up with all these scary tales of like la mano peluda, like it's in us. Music is in us. So I want to channel that somehow and put it back and inject it back into animation. So that's kind of the future for me, how whatever that looks like.
Of course, we'll wait and see how it is. Same goes to me as well. Like, I mean, what I want to do in my life, well, animation, of course, but should I want to tell stories at the same time? I feel like I do. I feel like
Yes.
I actually want to tell stories.
Yes.
I'll do animation projects first, but I do want to understand stories first. So that's why
Yeah.
I'm taking online classes on screenwriting and understanding storytelling to translate to features. So I
Mm-hmm.
can see that working.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
ideas, I do have some ideas of what kind of movies I want to make though.
and it's a craft. You're learning. You have to put, I always tell people like work on your craft just because you learn. Like I my goodness, if I try, Lord knows I've tried to draw and I just can't. I can doodle here and there and save my life in Pictionary, but I couldn't just come together and put, so I had to lean on other ways to communicate with directors. And I feel like that is, again, I say this to say that you're always like, you can draw, you can't this, you can't yeah, okay, but what can you do? And with whatever you can do, how can you use it back to what you want to do? So like you don't have to think about what's going to happen in 10 years. I never ever would have ever bet on myself to be a producer at Pixar. Would never. I never thought about it. I never thought I never dreamed that for myself because I didn't think it was a possibility. And the more I think about my life, I think you just have to focus and be the best that you can at what you are doing right now. So I hope you have the best podcast and you have amazing guests that lead you to working in this industry, whatever that looks like. So it's just that, just do the best you can at whatever you're doing and just do it with gusto.
Same here. I mean, I'm still stuck with my YouTube channel, but hey, at least my YouTube channel is doing okay right now.
Yeah.
Mainly
Yeah.
just nothing. It just keeps going up every single month.
Yes. You just got to keep going because time's going to go by anyway. And if you don't do it, time will fly by and then you're like, oh, I wonder how many views I've gotten. Now it's like it doesn't matter, you'll get it. And also, I don't think that I think the people can see your intentions, and I feel like you can go out there and have a podcast and have the best, or the YouTube channels of the best, whatever, you have your guests. But
I
if
don't
there's
necessarily be the best. I just want to be at least good.
yeah,
You know what
it's
I mean?
not yeah, the ones that you enjoy are not the ones with like all this stuff. Is the ones that you're engaged and you're listening, you're like, wow. And the ones that have like, I know you're a fan, like you're such a fan of animation yourself. I know you're passionate about, what is going on in our industry, and you know a lot about the history of the field. So I think that is exciting to talk to someone who also is as passionate as we are about animation.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's it for now, actually, because actually my battery's gonna die very soon, so I don't want to.
Oh no.
But yeah, so thanks again for showing up here. You want to plug in anything else before we leave? Just before we sign out?
Yeah, I would say just follow me on the socials. I'm on Instagram and on TikTok, Magdiela. I don't remember what they are, but my name Magdiela. You can just search for me, Magdiela Duhamel. Honestly, I would say that those follows, likes do matter, and support Jonathan's show and go watch on YouTube and all the stuff. So
And
like
also free. Check out my portfolio. I have some stuff I already did.
yes, absolutely. I think that's also really good. It's just the sharing and liking each other's works and really supporting each other. So I would just say, follow me on the socials. If you have questions, I do tend to reply. As Jonathan knows, I will DM. I will DM you back. So if I get a chance, not as fast as I would like to, but I do try to get back. to people.
Yeah, just don't be as fast as you can. Just, take your time with whatever you need to do first. And then you can reply to me because I'm mostly the secondary person ever. I feel
Oh,
like an NPC in a video game. Yeah.
good to know.
Today has been great so far because
Good,
that
good.
new GTA game coming out.
Yeah, and I love your holiday spirit. I see your Christmas trees up.
Hey, that one I made it, so we are ready for the holidays.
Nice.
All right, Margarita. I can't even say your name. Still trying to this
It's
day.
okay. Yeah, Ella is perfectly fine.
Ella is perfect. I'll try to never using Ella.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's so nice to see you again. I hope I see you again, whatever we see each other again, either in LA or whatever.
Yeah.
And to everyone else, thanks for listening, and we'll just see you around next time. Want to say goodbye?
Awesome. Bye, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Ciao.
Well, looks like that's about it for my first ever episode of Cue the Spotlight, an animation podcast. This has been Jonathan Pinzon, and if you're interested to be in this podcast, feel free to contact me on my Instagram at JonathanEST90s. You can find me there, you can DM me, and we can reserve for another episode here and there. So thanks a lot, you guys, for listening, and I'll see you all next time. You guys take care. Bye-bye.